What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Apparently, the entire conversation about Game Pass and how many have said, or some anyways, I don't know if many have said this, have said it's value destructive. It puts Microsoft in a position where they can be monopolistic or reduces the quality of games, or in a sense, there's this other conversation that it cannibalizes game sales, seemingly is falling apart because there are many circumstances that don't usually get cited in this very nuanced conversation. In my last few videos, I debunked the entire conversation of quality of games, seeing that Game Pass is mostly, populated by third-party games who are responsible for their own quality, and many of them deliver quality games. Also, we talked about, say, the whole conversation of the monopoly, seeing that we also have players who are very powerful in the industry like PlayStation and Nintendo. Many keep saying Nintendo is not a direct competitor to Xbox, but that's kind of subjective because Nintendo also hosts third-party games. So yes, there is still some overlap in regard to competition, and so you can't entirely eliminate Nintendo as a marketing force, especially seeing that they hold a huge market share that is bigger than Microsoft's Xbox. Now, seeing this article that's on the screen, I'm sure you already kind of see or know, or at least you can presume where I'm going with this, because this actually undermines another huge myth that people have held, and that is that, Game Pass cannibalizes sales. Now, granted, there's record of Phil Spencer and other people who are analysts in the industry who have actually claimed that there is valid reason to think that Game Pass does, in a sense, in quote, cannibalize sales. Now, I've always thought that this whole cannibalization terminology was an overinflation of the reality. I think, yes, there is that side where, because there's a subscription service, people who may as well have bought the game would probably opt for the subscription service because it is fundamentally less expensive than the full price of the game itself. I am one of those people. I could buy a game, but if it's on Game Pass, why would I spend money buying the game? Because a fool and their money are easily parted. And if you want to enjoy value, saving more of your money is the way to go. For those who yell and say we want to own our games, you need to probably maybe consider that there are probably more valuable assets that you can own, like stocks and shares, that are better than actually owning a digital video game, right? I think we can probably come to that conclusion and calm down. Because those who want to save money, that's all it is they want to do. It doesn't mean that everybody is poor, and that's why they're renting games, according to you, from Game Pass. Some people just, in a sense, can only afford that, while some choose and prefer to spend their money in a different way. So this whole talk about Game Pass cannibalizing, the sales of games, I think we need to reduce that and start saying, well, there is an, aspect where Game Pass will probably, in a sense, possibly reduce the amount of game sales, but it doesn't necessarily seem like it carries all that weight, seeing that, according to this article, Starfield just busted the biggest myth about Xbox Game Pass. This is written by Ashley Bardern, and so we're going to read it. Very short read. Bethesda's newest giant role-playing game, Starfield, which hit Xbox's Game Pass service the day of its release, enjoyed a very loud launch last month. In fact, its developer singled it out as the biggest Bethesda game launch of all time. Now, new data from consumer analytics company Circana backs up that boast with some numbers. This stylish noir-punk side-scroller is like Celeste with guns. What's this? Is this like this is like an article. I just read that like it was part of the article. I'm sorry. If you look at Circana sales data for September, which we can open and see here, you'll see that Starfield was the best-selling game in the US that month. Add-on spending, like the $35 premium edition upgrade many Game Pass members tacked onto their free base game to get it in its early access, wasn't accounted for in the data. Ladies and gentlemen, I actually made this $35 purchase because I already had Game Pass. That week was a free week for me. The next week when it was coming out was going to be busy. So I said, you know what, let me get the premium upgrade right now. I already had my Game Pass Ultimate subscription. And then later when the game is discounted, I'm just going to go ahead and just, purchase the game itself. And so it says this was not accounted for. And this seemed like a good number of people because at the time there was a lot of conversation going on. I don't know necessarily how many would have bought it in this way, but it seemed like it was more favorable because it was less expensive compared to the early access edition, which was on Steam, which even though that one was more expensive, we saw about 200 and something thousand people play it in early access. So possibly that number was actually accounted for. Really, what does it say? It says, which makes Starfield taking the number one dollars earned spot here even more impressive. Really, Starfield achieved these record sales in spite of Game Pass, which parent company Microsoft reportedly recognizes causes a decline in base game sales 12 months following their addition to the service. Starfield's next 11 months of sales then could be more contentious. There are already signs of its fresh paint chipping. Obviously, like I said, it's a value proposition. You are better off spending your money on better assets that can yield you more money than buying a video game. We're grown here. And if you're a young person, maybe you're a teenager, maybe in your early 20s, you ought to consider how you actually spend your money. You're making a lot of these gaming executives rich. For those of you who brag about paying $70 for video games, you're not as rich as these people. These people run around in private jets, their children go to private school, and what are you doing? Giving them all your money? So find a way to be able to create a middle ground where you can enjoy your entertainment and also be able to, in a sense, keep some money in your pocket. It's a sensible thing to do. Now, this article goes on to say on Steam's global top sellers chart, which we can also look at here, the latest Bethesda RPG fell a steep 26 spots from last week's placement to a miserly ranking of 45 between The Division 2, number 44, and Lies of P, number 46. Another Game Pass game. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to reduce that language. And, that language is already put out there by detractors of Game Pass. And I think, people who are not paying attention gave them enough ground. Somebody like me who games on PC, who recognizes that there's also a PC Game Pass and how it provides value, but yet me not wanting to just take all my games on there, and I still purchase Steam titles as well. I've always kind of thought that was kind of weird at the end of the day, but it's nice to give people the benefit of the doubt for an argument. It says the latter of which also seems to be suffering from dwindling hype. Starfield is performing a bit better on Steam's US only chart, lazing around the 27 slots, though it dropped 12 spots from its ranking there last week. Big releases, especially during this packed October, keep threatening its standing. Obviously, it's beat its expectations, to be very honest. A lot of people were not expecting these numbers. Mortal Kombat 1, obviously that game that's a 15 million copy game, so everybody move aside. And EA Sports FC 24, and by the way, if you wonder why I said 15 million, that's called MK11 sold over 15 million. I'm just throwing that out there because of it. EA Sports FC 24 arrived behind Starfield in September US release sales. Circana's chart indicates, by some wizard magic, Hogwarts Legacy was the US's 5th best-selling game in September, though its concurrent player count seems to be shrinking ahead of its Switch Sports upcoming 14th November. The Wizard game, blah, 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 blah. And to Starfield's credit, its first month was impressive enough to help it creep up to the year's number 7 spot, right under Star Wars Jedi Survivor. There are worse places to be. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very interesting, and here's the data that's actually been shown, which includes physical and full game digital from Nintendo Shop, PlayStation, Steam, and Xbox platform for publishers in the digital leader panel ranked on dollar sales. Excludes add-on spending, so basically this inclusion of digital sales data in the best-selling title charts is done at the discretion of the participating publisher. Interesting in that. So this data actually is what's available, when they pretty much go out there and ask what's going on. And I know many have seen these charts, but I wanted for us to go ahead and take a look at it from the perspective of, somebody who's been able to gather the data as, things stand. So to be very honest, ladies and gentlemen, I think, the entire overreaction of Game Pass, to be very honest, has come from a lot of people who see the service as something that, undercuts the fact that maybe they don't want to participate in it, and they see that it's valuable in a sense for other people, but, have pretty much concluded that the service is just terrible overall. Yes, it has a place where we can see that it will reduce sales. Nobody is, disputing that, but that has been overblown and blown out of proportion. If you have a good game come out, if you have a good title that people are looking forward to, you're going to see that sales are still going to be fine. What's crazy is a lot of these sales, which there was data that presumed that the copies on PC alone were about 6 million. Somebody took the number of, Steam users who had played and achieved specific trophies. I think there was a Steam database API that was used to gather this. I cannot find the tweet. So I'm just going to put it out there as one of those, I saw it and I know what my eyes saw. And they've actually kind of predicted that it was around 6 million in sales at the time they got this data. Now, this is 6 million copies when Game Pass was still obviously an option for this game, beating Final Fantasy in its own exclusivity. And don't give me that Final Fantasy was a PS exclusive. You're not allowed to do that. Why? Because again, Final Fantasy was marketed using the PC version. The PC version, more than likely, was already in a sense developed, or at least there's a version of it that could run on PC enough for them to market it. Nothing stopped Square Enix except for the exclusivity deal to go ahead and actually make the game, exclusive to PlayStation for the meantime. So they shot themselves in the foot in Square Enix, because Final Fantasy is a game that has bigger brand recognition than Starfield, in a sense. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Like, you cannot necessarily, you can kind of compare the two in terms of brand recognition, but at the same time, Final Fantasy is the big bro here. It's existed for much longer than any of these Bethesda games actually have. And so seeing it actually fall in sales, and seeing Square Enix's share prices and stock prices also take a hit because of this, I strongly believe that, they probably need to move away from the exclusivity deals. Sure, they may be able to break even. They may get a check from Sony immediately. But at the end of the day, you've just shot yourself in the foot. And this even brings a conversation about Sony's own day one games as well. Is it possible that, PlayStation might be able to benefit from the PC community, who are just literally sitting there on neutral ground and, are wanting to be able to play these games whenever they come out? And I know you're going to say, well, it seems like this harms the proposition of what Sony actually brings to the table, which if they were to bring these games day one, then what is the point of having their console? Because you want a PlayStation console and you want to play games. That's the point that it should be. That's why many people move to PC. But they're going to Sony knows. They know that PC is the next, platform. They just don't want to make a lot of their PlayStation, community mad. It's a PR stunt. But they're blurring the lines between the exclusives now, because very soon, those exclusives are going to be moving closer and closer. Before you know, it's going to be 6 months. It's kind of like DVD. DVD used to be about, I think it was about 6 months after release you got DVD, if not longer. Now, it's no longer 6 months. It's actually closing very closely. So I think because the market shift is now happening, you're going to start seeing these PlayStation games show up like 3 to 6 months later. And then before you know what's going on, if the competition continues to intensify, which it will, because Nintendo is not going to sleep. They're going to be making bangers. Xbox doesn't seem to care. They're just going to be buying whatever it is they want to buy, or making some of them if they can be bothered to. And Sony is going to have to figure out, like, hey, man, we need to bring these juicy games that PC players obviously like to PC so that they can start playing day one. I'll get out of here. Thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Peace out.